But really, we say like if you're buying multifamily, it's like buying a business, right? Because that's really what you're doing. It's like future predictive cash flow. So, what does the deal look like? How's it packaged up? And then to your point, a lot of the financing is really centered around the deal itself.
Yeah.
A little bit less centered around the individual buyer.
For me, I think the main reason why I like this deal is I think boring real estate's the way to go. I think it's a lot less risky. And B is really getting into a building with such a low down payment with a higher amortization, right? Like how many buildings out there can you get into at like a 13% down payment?
Yeah, like your 300-ish grand for something that's fully done with sounds like future potential, which I like. I've long said, if you're going to get into buildings like this, like look for opportunities where you get some extra land with it, because you never know how the rules might change. Now all of a sudden you can build in your backyard. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. I am here with Zach Willms and David Hulshof, and 2/3 of the team here, or the main cast outside of myself. Anyways, Zach, first time on the show, I think, outside of the podcast, right? Or did you come on one of these episodes before?
I think I might have been on before about a campground.
Yeah,
my first time talking about actually an apartment building.
Yeah. All right. So we're doing a deal review today, and Jake will be back next week. Okay. So let's just talk high level, guys. This is a building that I just briefly had a chance to look at the numbers on. It looks like cash flows.
Yeah.
Which, hey, that's a good start in Ontario.
Yeah, exactly.
Zach, you mentioned this. I think it's your listing. So talk to me about it.
Yeah, right now it's still exclusive, but it's a fully renovated turnkey 6-unit building. Everything was gutted down to the studs. That means new electrical, new plumbing, all new floors, all new kitchens, 6 units, purpose built in Thorold. Everything's done for MLI Select. So all the energy efficiency upgrades were done.
That's how they did it based on energy.
That's how they did it. With a lot of people that happened when CMHC changed their rules, now you can't refinance out certain loans. So the seller doesn't have the ability to refinance with MLI Select, right? So a new buyer would.
So a new buyer can come in and get MLI Select,
correct,
but the seller can't.
But the seller wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, so it's already done though. You can just literally write the offer. They already have the audit before and after, and you just go in and apply. Yeah. How long would it take, do you think, to get MLI Select, like to close on that?
At this point, our brokers are usually telling us about 2 to 3 months from the time of application to the time of actually funding.
So say you would offer, like if somebody came in and offered in a few days from now, when would they be applying to MLI Select? Like how soon do you think they'd get that app in?
It would be instantly. They would have to start applying instantly for it.
So within that week, they start applying. Like when what I'm trying to get is when does CMHC start the clock? Hey, like we have everything you need. Now you're on our wait, or are they immediately reviewing it with their underwriters and then just asking for more stuff?
It would be on the brokers actually submitting the application, right? Yeah. So that would probably take about 2 or 3 weeks just to gather
everything
all the
together.
Information. Yeah, and then
do you have to run an appraisal first, or MLI or CMHC doesn't need an appraisal?
No, we need an appraiser as well.
Okay, so you got to get that.
Do you have anything like environmental appraisal, any of that stuff?
That's still yet to be done.
To be done. Okay.
Okay, so that would that be? And just for people watching, so typically when you buy multifamily buildings, like maybe not as much on small buildings like this, I've seen those squeak through without environmentals, but often people will get an environmental like phase 1 to just make sure there was no contaminants, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Usually, unless there's a reason to think there would be a problem, there isn't, but I mean, it could happen. That's why you do it. And then a building condition analysis, right, with an engineer. And then outside of that, an appraisal, really.
That's it, yeah. Those 3 things round out the due diligence.
Okay, for most people. But then, so you'd be doing that simultaneously with your CMHC application.
Correct.
So you're saying somebody typically, like what you're seeing with CMHC MLI, it's like a 3-month from when you write the offer to when you're closing it.
At this point.
I mean, wait times have been dropping, right? At one point, there were files getting picked up were taking months, and then to actually get them completed. So you were 6+ months in some cases. Those have been dropping dramatically.
Yeah, like 2 to 3 months in our field is fast. That used to be 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Where we putting offers now, and it's like I would tell a buyer like you're closing next year.
Yeah.
Like you're not closing in 2024, but now it's like you're actually probably going to be closing in the fall.
We're back to the time where some of the delays are really about the purchaser and how much of their documentation they have.
Yeah, that's what I was really thinking. Like somebody
drag,
comes in to buy something like this, and then they don't have everything together, like the personal net worth, all their stuff, like any sort of papers that you need to provide. I mean, it's not as intense. It's more the personal net worth that you need to have together. But when you're doing multifamily, it's not as much about what you own, or sorry, about your own income, right? It's about the building.
Yeah, correct. It's about the building, your net worth. And again, if you've done CMHC before and they already have a profile on you, there's going to be a little bit more speed with that. But if it's your first time, there's going to be a learning process with it all.
Yeah. But really, we say like if you're buying multifamily, it's like buying a business, right? Because that's really what you're doing. It's like future predictive cash flow. So, what does the deal look like? How's it packaged up? And then to your point, a lot of the financing is really centered around the deal itself.
Yeah.
A little bit less centered around the individual buyer. That's still an important component.
Yeah,
but
you got to have good credit, obviously.
network.
You got to look like you don't need the money in order to survive. Otherwise, they're not going to give it to you.
101, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not
If you
scrutinizing
need it,
everything.
they won't give it. Yeah.
It's not TDS and GDS like single family homes,
Correct.
but it's definitely still relevant. So, okay, so this one you said is purpose built. How old are we talking?
Correct. This one would probably be 1950s, 1960s.
Okay, so this was like converted. It's no longer a central boiler. It's now
Correct.
in unit heat pumps.
Exactly.
And then they got
Everybody's-
backup baseboard heating.
Yes, everybody's separate hydrometers, heat pumps, backup baseboards, because those heat pumps aren't usually good under -30, -35. So
it's
the
just in
seller
case.
went a step beyond and actually put the baseboard heater in all the units.
Nice.
I think that might actually even be a requirement when you, from a building code standpoint,
Yeah,
because they don't do well. Although the tech's getting better with heat pumps, so
Yeah.
they can now handle.
I was gonna say I've done renovations where we had heat pumps and didn't have to put in the baseboard heater, but any good engineer
Yeah.
or HVAC specialist will tell you like it's usually a pretty good idea for bathrooms and kind of areas further
Right.
from the actual heat
Yeah.
pump heads to just install small ones.
Yeah, just so you got it if you
It
absolutely
wasn't a
need
requirement though.
It wasn't a requirement
Wasn't?
back then, but again, building code changes once every week.
But this is both.
I mean,
This is
on
both.
Good.
on the off chance that it does go down below -35, I'm sure it's not going to happen that often. So I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
having it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so good idea for what it is. It's a brick building,
Brick building.
flat roof.
Correct. Flat roof. Roof was done in 2023 as well.
How many stories?
This is just 2 stories.
New windows?
New windows too.
I did everything.
Yeah,
They
he did everything.
Did it all. Okay, so this is basically a flip for the seller.
It wasn't meant to be.
Oh,
right?
so
But
he
just-
bought it, wanted to refi into
Exactly.
MLI,
Just
but then he
because
couldn't
the
get it.
Gotta love the rule change.
Yeah, just because the rule
Yikes.
changes, right? And that's why some of the items in this building, I told him when I went through it, I'm like, you went way above and beyond, right? Like my favorite thing that he did is there's actually a doorbell camera. So you click the doorbell to ring to the unit and your face shows up inside the unit.
In the unit. So it's got screens in the
They
unit.
got every unit has screens, so you
That's
can
nice.
actually see who's at the door. You can see their
That's
face
a
and
nice
everything, just
feature,
like
yeah.
a camera. Exactly.
Yeah, you don't see that in deals where people were knowing they were going to sell them. Right?
Exactly. They're trying to pinch
they're-
every penny.
which
Right.
is nice if you're the buyer on this one. Okay, so this one is your listing, so we can even tell them where it is. So 41 Lynn Crescent. I think you had something you were going to show me, but we don't have pictures here for this, but that's all right.
Did we mention it's in Thorold? I feel like that's
It's in
important.
Thorold. Yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
So benefits and downsides to Thorold. I mean, Thorold's obviously where their school is, right?
Correct.
So-
Yeah, Brock University is about a 10-minute drive away from this exact address. It's close to Port Colborne, which just introduced the new EV plant as well too. And then all around this area is all new single-family homes, new neighborhoods. A lot of money kind of going into this whole entire region.
Yeah, I feel like this region was seen as an opportunity area because it was cheaper to live than anywhere else that close to Toronto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's still like got a lot of people coming in
exactly.
and driving up prices.
Still great
there.
prices, yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively still good prices. Yeah. Okay, so 6 unit. I got my spreadsheet up here. So in terms of base rent here, we've got $10,200 a month, and I have a rent roll over here on the far side that I just put together. So you're one bed plus den, and then you are 2 5 beds. Two 5 2 beds. My apologies.
5 2 bedrooms,
5 2
yeah.
beds. 2 5 beds would be weird. Okay, so you're either 1450 plus hydro or 1750 plus hydro. And I was just schooling the guys off camera here that you don't say hydro to an American or they'll look at you funny.
Yeah.
I've said this on the podcast many times, but anyways, so 10,200 is what you come up with there, and then you've also got some laundry income.
Correct. And I do think those numbers are conservative. Whenever we put together these spreadsheets, we try to be as conservative as possible. If you look on Facebook or rentals.ca, you can see 2 bedrooms in Thorold for like 1,900 to 2,000, and there's nothing fancy about them.
Right.
Yeah, so
Nobody's
you think
got
there's
these-
upward room there for the 2 beds?
I think there is. It just depends on, right
Yeah.
now it's vacant. It depends how aggressive the purchaser wants to be.
Well,
Right.
it's nice if it works at a conservative value, then you have an
Exactly.
option. Okay, so Zach, you were mentioning to me off camera that this one is not yet like reassessed from a tax perspective. So the renovation happened with a permit. Anytime that happens, you got to expect the municipality is going to punish you for your good work and charge you more. So anyways, 7,700 is what your estimate was.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's
with
even
you increasing it from base? Or it
that's
is right
with
now?
increasing it, and that's even higher than an appraisal was. Appraisal will say 975 per unit is kind of like a good number to estimate once it's renovated. And I think, Andrew, you did the math on this. It's actually higher. It's like 1,200 per unit.
Yeah, it was like 1,200 per unit, and you said you had it at 900, or you thought it should be 900.
Exactly.
So you were even more conservative than you were thinking. And then insurance, we've got it in at 3,500. I'm guessing you have a fairly good idea that'd be reasonable.
Yep, that's industry standard. That's estimated as well.
Okay, and how do you come up with that? Just like for people just trying to do quick calculations.
Yep, quick calculations always 550 per unit, and I think that's actually slightly higher. I think 550 a unit gets you at 3,300, and that's at 3,500.
Gotcha. Okay.
Nice.
So you're being conservative there. Maintenance, you got at 830, which I know is a CMHC standard. So a lot of this, just from doing this with Jake so much, we're CMHC standard numbers. So management at 4.25. Also, I believe a standard with CMHC.
Yeah.
Now, can you get that down there? Do you think you can? 4.25?
So the way I always look at this is CMHC includes salaries and caretaker at 55.
Oh, okay.
550.
So then that adds on top. Yeah.
Exactly, right? For a 6-unit building, you're not going to have...
No, that's going
Right.
to be in your management.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's going to be with your management, right? So then you take that, add that to your management, it's probably going to rough out to 6 or 7%.
Yeah, which you
And
could
that's
probably
exactly
find somebody
right.
for that.
That's
yeah.
right where you're going to be.
And
Okay.
just for the listeners, like salaries, caretaker, we're talking about what specifically there usually? Grass cutting, snow removal.
Yeah,
right?
superintendent,
Yeah.
right? That kind of stuff.
So
where-
would they be somebody who goes out and mows the lawn and shovels the snow, or would that be another line item here? Because I would normally do that as my own line item.
Yeah, typically you get a manager to do that, right? Or you get a company to do that outside of it.
And it all depends on, again, like you can
Yeah.
get a 4 1/4 to manage it, but then
Yeah.
you're going to sub out the rest of it, or you're going to kind of wrap it all up into one.
Or you're plus,
Yeah.
plus, plus. Anytime they get a phone call, it's $100. Anytime they get
Yeah.
an email, it's
Yeah, yeah.
$50. And
on one of my buildings, I was getting charged every week $52.50 for them to carry cardboard from the building to the side, to the street. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this, we can't have this.
yeah,
this is
this
crazy.
can't go on.
$52.50.
I don't like getting nickel and dimed on that stuff.
That's more than
Yeah.
Zach knows what I'm talking about.
I'm annoyed. That's why I brought it up. It's years ago. I'm still too off by it.
Yeah, we've had an experience with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say there's probably enough cushion in the taxes and insurance, or sorry, taxes and what did we other say? We said the insurance was a little cushion.
Even maintenance too, right? Think about it. This is a brand new building,
Brand new
basically,
building.
right? So
Yeah.
CMHC has maintenance in there.
Then you got
at
replacement and
5,000.
reserve.
Exactly.
It's one of the things we try to talk to clients about this. We almost run 2 different sheets. Like one is what your actual cash flow is going to be, and then one is what CMHC is going to do from a
Right.
perspective.
Well, because your replacement reserve, you're not paying for that this year, but the idea is put it in an account, put it off to the side because eventually you will.
But the idea is it's the same line item, the same number congruently through all deals. So this could be a 6 unit that's never had anything done to it. We're going to run the same model.
Yeah.
So the idea is, to your point, yes, you want to save it, you want to have that reserve built up, but your actual cash flow for a deal like this, turnkey, is probably going to net out a higher amount.
Oh yeah,
'cause
100%.
your
Like in your
expense-
first year, it should. Yeah, unless something goes wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I might throw in here is like a couple $100 just to cover a month, just to cover snow and landscaping. But that wouldn't kill this deal based on what I see the cash flow at here, and also knowing that that's conservative.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like a monster cash flow building by any means, but it does look like, something you could just kind of get into and let it start paying off.
Yeah, for me, I think the main reason why I like this deal is I think boring real estate's the way to go. I think it's a lot less risky, and B is really getting into a building with such a low down payment with a higher amortization. Right? Like how many buildings out there can you get into at like a 13% down payment?
Yeah.
Right? Typically a lot of deals.
Yeah,
we're
you're
seeing
coming in low, and this isn't my spreadsheet specifically, so I don't have the calculation on overall return. I don't know if you have that in here somewhere, but this one when you're coming in, actually you have over here. Never mind, you do have overall return. Apologize. Okay, so you got your land transfer calculator here. We've got lender fee, broker fee. We've got property reports. So this would be all your due diligence, your appraisal, your ESA, and your building condition analysis. Legals, after all of that and your down payment, you're in for $312. Really, even with CMHC, you're still in for that much. Okay, so with that, and you have a passive appreciation here that that one's the tough one for me because I know some people are bullish on multifamily. Like I had a guy on my podcast just last week, and he was saying, he thinks single families are going to go down, but he's like, with multifamily, he's more optimistic that they actually could go up.
Right.
And you never know. 3%, I'm not 100% sure that that's like something I would rely on. But with that being said, you've still got your cash flow, you still got your pay down. And one of the things is, it's going to get better as time goes on.
Well, you have your annual
go
rent
up.
increases, right?
that as well.
Annual rent
Right.
increases.
So guaranteed NOI is going to be going
That
up every
actually,
year.
so that's a great argument for why. Because if your rents are going to keep going up, assuming that is going to keep happening, assuming the cap rate stays the same, hypothetically, then you should see.
Yeah, because what we're doing in these models is, even on exit values, when you take them direct to CMHC, we're not showing rental increases.
No, that's
We've
true.
negated that entirely. So you have to, the easiest way to capture that is in the appreciation section.
Yeah.
So really, we're not netting out much in the way of appreciation when you use that.
Yeah. Interesting point. Yeah, I don't deny that that's not relevant. I mean, in also here, like you said, you've been conservative on the rents as they are. There's probably upward room there too.
Yeah.
So it looks like this could be actually a pretty solid deal. And then, of course, as time goes by, goes on, early on, you're not collecting much in the way of principal pay down, but down the road you would be.
You would be.
Once that 50-year amortization needs to pick up some steam before you're really paying off much of the principal.
And with CMHC, like, you're getting into the best interest rate that you can possibly right now, right? You're not going conventional and getting 4.75. You're not going anywhere else to get those low numbers. So that's really why the product works so well.
Yeah. Where does this chart? This is foreign to me, this specific sheet. Where does this one show the breakdown of mortgage payments? Does it show it?
No, this one doesn't.
Okay. Is that factored in though? Pay down, is that factored in here to the overall return?
It is, yeah.
It's just calculated.
It's calculated on a separate sheet somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
In the abyss. Yeah.
It's a hot sheet.
This
somewhere.
probably is based off of my spreadsheet because there's some things that look familiar here, but
might have been a new rendition.
Yeah, I think you were the originator of it.
I think it started with me and then got modified because I can see it is basing it off of a table. So, okay, anything else we should share about this deal?
I'd say the one thing with this deal is on a big piece of land. It's got lots of parking. It's got easily 8 spots as it is right now. I think there's a simple renovation to do where you kind of extend the parking lot a little bit into the backyard, add an additional couple spots, then you get 2 spots per unit.
That's nice.
That's really how you get
Is there a potential to add another building to this down
That's
the road?
the thing. I've never done the due diligence in to see another building. For sure, storage on the back of the property. Like if you wanted to go to Home Depot and just pick up those storage sheds, now you give everybody a storage shed.
Out. Yeah,
rent them out.
Additional income potential.
That's the big
on
win
that.
these days, right? Because the problem with building a new building is what's the cost? And on a per unit basis, like we're going to struggle.
So a friend of mine is developing, it's a multi-unit in his backyard. I think it's 14 units in the backyard of one of his existing 8-unit buildings. So the nice thing is it was cash flow positive as he was going through the whole development process, got the approvals, and then it was just like, okay, now I just need to price out construction and let's go. So if you have that kind of flexibility where you already own something, you're already cash flows, like you're not servicing a debt on a speculative development play.
Yes.
You're like, if you get the development, that's gravy. Like that's on top of what the deal is. So this would be one of the ones where I would come in and I would be looking at it. Okay, I know the numbers at a baseline look serviceable. Like my cash flow is going to be higher than that 500 in the first year because I'm not actually paying the replacement reserve. It's going to be many years before I need to do that. Hopefully by that point we've made a bunch of rent increases and blah blah blah. My return's higher than it looks. And then I'm looking for, am I adding in, those flat pack containers where you can set them up in storage containers? I mean, I don't know if bylaw would allow that, but if they don't know about it, maybe, I don't know. Maybe if you grease the palms of the mayor, I think that's kind of what you need to do. I was actually just having a chat with a friend the other day, and I'm certainly not going to name names, but influential guy. And he's like, you'd be surprised. And I'm just going to say, he's like, you'd be surprised at how cheap it is to buy some politicians.
Really?
Like, he's like city people. He's like, whether you got to, take them fishing, send them to a sports game, buy them some tickets, take them golfing. He's like, you'd be surprised how that changes, the rubber stamp process if you can. So
could see it.
Which is funny. Like a mutual friend of ours will bring coffees to the people in the city. Like, and he always swore by that. Hey, that gets,
it goes a long way.
It does. Like, just make them like you. Don't be like the other, everyone else that talks to them that just said, you got that for me? Like, beats on them. Like, he'll bring them donuts and coffee.
And it works.
Yeah, I mean that's a low grade greasing,
a low grade bribe of a city official.
A low grade grease. I mean, if we're being like honest with ourselves here, like that's how the world goes around. Like,
pretty much. I
mean, I always tried to just do it based on, smart thinking through a deal, and but there's like way smarter people that just like learns to be interpersonal and hey, like, oh, I hear your son really likes this football team. I actually have some tickets.
Yeah, wouldn't you know?
Wouldn't you guys like that? You guys want to hit up a game this weekend? I got some extra tickets.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. I could. No, please. They're going to go to waste. We don't have anyone to go. Anyway, so I'm just thinking, I don't even know how we got on this track, but the idea is like, look for ways to add even further value. And it's not, you don't have to come in and gut this whole place. Like anything you do, you could do slow play development potentially for the backyard. Like how big is this place? Like the lot.
It's a good sized lot. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it's got enough space back there. You could definitely do something, whether it's storage or whether it's looking into future development.
Like even like a 4-unit in the backyard, like a potential small
something
footprint
small like that, I think would be in the cards.
If the zoning is there for it and the density is there for it, obviously we haven't looked into that. I'd be looking into that. I'd be looking into the flat pack storage containers if the zoning would allow, or I'd grease somebody and try and get that done. Can we not say that?
I don't know. I'm just skirting through it.
Dave's like, I'm not going to say that. All right, guys. Good episode.
So, just to summarize this, so for clarity, is somebody offers on this, they want to go to CMHC. Will you allow them the time so they get it? Like maybe we can walk them through it. So they negotiate the contract with you guys. They get it. It's now accepted. Are they allowed to take it to CMHC to get the approval in place and then close, or do they need to close to the bridge?
Nope, they can close right to CMHC. And I did confirm with the broker, not every unit has to be rented. They'll have about a 60, 90-day condition after closing to get everything rented to the rents that we state. So the seller will start renting them right now, but if every unit's not full prior to closing, you actually do get a 60, 90-day window there to actually fill those units.
That's good. What do you do? You're in default if you don't do that? If you don't get it in 60, 90 days?
Pretty much.
Is that like what would happen? What would happen? You already own it. They already financed it.
I got my answer and I was like, great, 60, 90 days. In my mind, I'm like, you're not going to not find somebody. If that's what your window is, you would just drop the price.
Yeah, you just drop the price.
Well, I think that comes down to how you look at it, right? Like you're using not peak market rents. Like the deal will look better if you can hit those, but to ensure you're actually going to fill those spots, you need to comb down your rental rates a little bit, right?
Pretty much.
So they have the right. So that's a nice point to the deal then, obviously, because it'd be more expensive if they couldn't do that.
Yeah,
so they have the runway to go to CMHC.
Right, then it would be a lot more expensive. They're paying extra fees, and then the deal just doesn't make as much sense.
Well, I know you had this in there at 4.75, and I believe like that is realistic for CMHC right now if you're getting into that program. So I mean, that's the benefit. People want to get that much lower interest rate. They are like, obviously a lot of people are doing the MLI program. That's like very popular right now.
Yeah, it's been one of the most popular programs since it came out.
Yeah. So really they take it to CMHC, close on it. So it's a small capital injection to get a building. That's fully done.
Yeah. Like your 300-ish grand for something that's fully done with sounds like future potential, which I like. I've long said, if you're going to get into buildings like this, like look for opportunities where you get some extra land with it, because you never know how the rules might change. Now all of a sudden you can build in your backyard, right? If you have that extra land when those opportunities come around, it might not be worth anything today, but down the road it could be.
Well said.
Just a little extra grass to cut in the meantime.
Yeah,
I like it.
And you can just let it grow wild too.
I'll start looking at the zoning now.
Yeah.
Now
all right, guys. So the routine doesn't change. So you guys who are watching have noticed that it's not just me and Jake these days. So we're now going to have Dave and Zach on. Sometimes we'll have all four of us on. We got the studio set up for that now, and it just gives us more opportunity to get into like more discussion about these buildings, about these, what's going on economically, politically that affects real estate investors, and we'll keep it interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so if you're interested in working with these guys, or if you want to talk to Zach about this specific building, you can use the link below the video. You'll opt into the list, and then somebody be in touch.
Perfect.
Any special notes on that, or that should do it?
Nope, that should do it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right, guys, if you've made it this far, show the channel some love. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.